you, please drop out of college because it's going to ruin your lives. Do me a favor, drop out. They don't teach you nothing good. Email me or Twitter me or whatever you call me, and I'll help you with your life. But you got to get out of college because it isn't nothing but devil-worshipping, baby blood-drinking Democrat donors. Love ya.
Love ya. Okay, so that was Roseanne Barr. She was seen speaking at a Mar-A-Lago event for Kari Lake. As you can see, she is back in the headlines, and predictably, it's not for anything good. Here is another quick look at what Roseanne was actually saying at the event on behalf of her friend Kari Lake.
But I did run for president. You know why? Because I thought it's time for a woman. That's what I thought, and Kari, it's time for a woman in the Senate. It's time for a woman everywhere. You know why? Because anything a man can do, a woman can get another man to do even better. Am I right?
So just for the record, there are already women in the Senate. But in that first clip, her speech might have been a little bit slurred in that video. So in case you didn't quite catch what she was saying, she was telling people to drop out of college. She invited them to email or Twitter her for life advice. And she reminded us all that colleges are full of, quote, devil-worshipping, baby blood-drinking Democrat donors. And she loves us, which is very nice. We'll get to all of that QAnon anti-college stuff in a minute, but before we go any further, I want to call your attention to what is behind Roseanne. Can we put that picture up? That's a painting on the wall of Trump behind Roseanne. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's pretty amazing. I actually didn't notice it until Brett pointed it out to me, but now that I've seen it, I need the rest of you all to see it. So what do you think, Cenk? What do you think of this so far? Do we need to commission a painting like that for you for the TYT studios?
Now we're having a conversation. Okay, so first of all, on the painting, Donald Trump, I don't know if it's that particular one, has twice used his charity to buy enormous paintings of himself. I think one was $10,000 and the other one was $6,000. If I remember right, you could look up the prices. That's why he had to shut down his fake charity and pay a huge fine, because he was only doing it to pay off his bills, etc. He's the world's worst person, total utter con man. On the other hand, I am really looking forward to life advice from Roseanne Barr, because I think she might have gotten this thing figured out. Because at universities, all there are Democratic donors. I don't even know what that means, let alone devil worshiping and child baby blood drinking. And if you're not familiar with that, and I believe Roseanne Barr was originally Jewish. I don't know what she is today, but that is the oldest blood libel that there is. And Candace Owens recently liked a tweet where she said that rabbis drink the blood of Christians. Okay, so it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory from as long back as we can remember. It's disgusting, and it is what lunatics believe. I mean, the minute you hear anybody talking about drinking blood, that's it. Lunatic, get them mental health counseling. And I'm not at all exaggerating. Like bona fide, insane person. Okay, but I'm gonna say one more quick thing here before we get into the QAnon stuff. There's two things that the Republicans keep pushing because they think it's hurting them with the voters. Number one, they keep telling young women to get married. We've shown you endless clips on the show before. Why? Because they saw the polling that unmarried women are the #1 voting base of Democrats. And you could argue that African Americans are and different slices are, but it's a huge voting base for the Democrats. And so these knuckleheads think, oh, if they're unmarried women, we just get them married. And another giant voting base for the Democrats is college educated people. So they're like, oh, we got it. Let's get them to drop out of college. Then they won't get any education. And then they might be ignorant enough to vote for Republicans. So that's why she's saying those things. All right, Jordan, back to you.
So Jordan, will you be Twittering Roseanne for any life advice anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at PhD programs the other day, but after this, I'm done. I'm not going to do it. I think she's right. It's an indoctrination mill. I want to hear more about this blood drinking. She looks great. She seems great. It's clearly working for her. It seems like has a revitalizing effect. So I think she's doing wonderful. The one thing I do want to point out, so you talk about the painting, and just think about how weird that must be for Trump to have a painting of himself in his house. I heard a story recently about Troy Aikman's house. He's got a giant portrait at the top of his stairs in his home. His family, wife, kids aren't in it, it's just him. And you just think, like, what kind of person has a painting of themselves in their office or in their home? And it's just—
wait a minute.
It's just so
Jake,
weird. It's such a weird thing to do.
You're a natural born athlete.
Wow, that makes me feel really good.
By the way, Justice coming in my book. Get it at tyt.com/justice. Okay, no, seriously, of course, a viewer sent that in, and every day I look at it, I'm made uncomfortable. You're wonderful for sending it in. Don't get me wrong, but the one they made of John's is excellent.
It looks real.
Yeah, except I heard John made that one.
Oh. Another
yes.
conversation. Okay, so I did look it up, right? Roseanne Barr seems to know an awful lot about what goes on in colleges for someone who has never attended college, right? She dropped out of high school. She went to go live in an artist colony, which sounds really fun and interesting. And then she started a family. At some point, she started doing stand-up comedy, and the rest is history. And by the way, that's no judgment, of course. That's her life, that's her path. College isn't for everyone, and that's fine. But the demonization of higher education, or just education in general, is a problem, especially when it's coming from people who don't know what they're talking about. And it might be easy to write this whole thing off as the ravings of a woman who doesn't know what she's talking about. But unfortunately, these anti-education beliefs, whether they're rooted in conspiracy theory or just general conservative fear of the unknown, have real life consequences. And the utterly misinformed and obviously manufactured hysteria surrounding CRT, for example, is powering anti-educational movements across the country. Check this out.
What evidence do you have that children are being indoctrinated in the schools now?
Well, a couple of reasons. Number one is the way they have the materials that the teachers read. They have them read books that are very critical race theory authors. There's a ton of LGBT gender indoctrination. What they're doing is that they're changing the culture of the schools and changing the way children think about race, themselves, America, the values.
So you sent me this image. So we have Karl Marx, we have Tupac, we have a meme.
Yeah.
What's indoctrinating about this in a classroom?
Well, it's the idea that teachers, activist teachers, are taking upon themselves to put up things like glorifying Marxism. Critical race theory is a Marxist ideology.
Is that not just history, though? Because he is a famous figure in history.
Ironically, they don't put pictures of anybody else that is pro-America. They're changing the values and the morals of children to hate the country. That's the problem. That's not education.
Do you know that they're doing that, though?
Yes, 100%.
How?
Because we have whistleblowers, teachers, and administrators in the schools showing us that when they teach, they only teach one direction. Instead of telling them to love the country you live in.
Do you think teaching kids to love the country that they live in is another form of indoctrination, though?
It is another form of indoctrination, and it's just not true that that's what's happening in classrooms. So we're going to talk a little bit about Kari Lake and her take on all of this, because it was her party, after all, where all this was taking place. But first, Cenk, I want to get your thoughts on this. How did we get to the point where Roseanne Barr is now an anti-higher education Republican mouthpiece who's pushing this idea that only Karl Marx is being taught in schools?
Guys, look, I'm not doing it to be ad hominem, and I'm not doing it to just like do mean insults, right? No, none of this is attached to reality. It's all totally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So for example, I went to college and I went to a business school. I went to Wharton undergrad, okay? And did they teach Karl Marx? Yes. You know why? And I'm old. I went at a time when the Soviet Union still existed, right? Because they had to teach you different economic models in management. That's kind of called an education, right? And how much time did we spend on Karl Marx? My recollection is about 15, 20 minutes out of a whole semester. Was it the point of the school to indoctrinate us into Karl Marx? Of course not. It's a Wharton Business School. You know what they indoctrinate you into? Capitalism. Okay, so none of these, have they ever gone to a college or a university? Any of them ever? I'm not saying that to put them down. These days colleges are too expensive. You do whatever you like, right? But to think that you go to college and all they teach you is Karl Marx, you have to be a lunatic to believe that. Like totally detached from reality. So Roseanne Barr clearly has mental health problems. And unfortunately, a bunch of right-wing thought leaders like Ted Nugent, have you ever heard the guy? It's just total, utter lunatic. And I think that Donald Trump is mentally unbalanced. And Glenn Beck has admitted to being unbalanced. He's not in the news that often anymore, but he said he would get hooked himself up to a gyroscope to get mentally better and healthier or whatever. Like, look, guys, you're following literal lunatics if you believe these guys. Nobody's drinking baby's blood. That is the dumbest, most insane theory I've ever heard in my life. And nobody's devoting all of the university, which are all steeped in capitalism, to only teaching Karl Marx and Tupac. Come on, man. Come on, guys, don't believe this. It's humiliating to believe this stuff. So that's where, unfortunately, a decent chunk of the right wing is these days. And not just the right wing is, yeah, of course, they're concentrated in the right wing, but 15% of the country at one point believed in QAnon with all the blood drinking and all the nonsense. 15%, that's about 45 million people. I guess we need more mental health in this country. I'm not kidding. If you think that there's Jews or anyone else drinking the blood of Christians or anyone else, you have lost your effing mind. And it doesn't matter what the religions are. There are no leaders, Democrats, Republicans, or anyone else drinking the blood of children. If you hear someone saying that, just leave. Don't keep talking to them because they need help and you're not going to have a productive conversation with them. I don't know, sorry if I've been too harsh.
No,
Jordan, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think you've been too harsh. It's sad. It's just people get sucked into these conspiracy rabbit holes and they lose their minds. I don't know if it's as sad in the case of Roseanne. I mean, this is somebody who had a pretty decent career, was probably living off of residuals from reruns, but just totally lost her mind. One of her early cancellations was that she made gingerbread men and put stars of David on them and then put them in the oven and tweeted out a picture of it. Like, that's not somebody who is somebody certainly you should look to for education advice, but also just not somebody who is well in general. But on the classroom thing, the Marx poster, the Tupac poster, who cares? It's just one classroom, one teacher putting up posters of things that they might be interested in or offer a different perspective. That should be celebrated. When you talk about indoctrination, like Cenk is saying, an economic system that goes from, whenever you start learning about any sort of finance or any sort of business, if you learn, I took an accounting class in high school, all the way up through college or master's degree, PhD, it's 99% of those programs are pro-capitalism. They teach you that specifically, and that's a huge problem in the financial sector because they're only taught one way. And it's instructed as this is the right way. That's indoctrination. When you talk about all of these different things, the way US history is presented, they're fighting back against even teaching people. You see it all across the South and in red states. They're fighting back against the teaching of black history in this country. That's indoctrination. They don't care about that. It's if we want to create an inclusive world where everyone's perspective is included, everyone's experience is mentioned or taught, that's a problem. We can't have that. That's acknowledging that gender diversity exists is a problem. We can only teach there are two genders. That's indoctrination. But they don't care about it because they're not serious people.
Yeah, one last quick thing for me. I looked up the Trump portraits. I was right about one of them. He paid, his charity paid $10,000 for a picture of him. And so sad. I was wrong about the other one. It wasn't $6,000. It was $60,000. That's why they disbanded the charity and fined him several $million.
Gross. Yeah, that's strange. But to Jordan's point, that was an issue that I've always had with this whole debate about education and indoctrination or whatever. Reading about something, learning about something doesn't necessarily mean that you endorse those ideas, right? If you read a book, if you own a book, it doesn't mean that you endorse the ideas within the book. It just means that you know about them now. And that shouldn't be a problem in and of itself. But what does Kari Lake feel about all of this? Let's get back to her. She feels similarly to Roseanne, as it would turn out. Here is what she had to say about the American education system on the John Solomon Reports podcast. She said, they shouldn't be teaching this garbage where we're teaching our kids to hate our country. We need to have real American history. She went on to say, I'm just a mom I have school-age kids still. I want to know that all that work they put in, K through 12, they get out of high school and they're ready for the world, are ready to take their education to the next level, not being indoctrinated K through 12 to go on to be further indoctrinated by university. And then whatever wasn't taken care of in their indoctrination at university, the media goes on to continue the indoctrination. And she doesn't just disagree with school curriculums, she thinks that they are punishable by law. She said this is just woke curriculum that did nothing to advance my education and my knowledge. If you could then go back to the university and make a case to sue to get your intuition back for those classes, I think they would sit up straight and take notice and say, wow, we need to start putting our kids in classes that actually help them, advance them towards the real world and success. Like I said, college isn't for everyone, but suing a college because you don't like the education that you voluntarily signed up for and paid for is ridiculous. But from this whole story, it's clear that the Republicans pushing this anti-CRT rhetoric and this anti-public school, anti-higher education movement are all missing the point. First of all, facts are facts and they don't care about your feelings. They are the first ones to tell you that usually. Secondly, learning about uncomfortable things is just a part of learning. It's just a part of life. If you learn something about the history of your nation and it makes you think and feel differently about your nation, then that's something that you need to contend with. It's unreasonable for Republicans to think that they can insulate entire generations from information now that that information is just out there. But the bigger thing that they're missing is that you don't go to college to listen to a professor preach. Right? That's just bad academics. That's not what a college classroom is like. You're supposed to go to college to learn how to think and how to evaluate information and how to analyze data and sources. You're supposed to learn how to discern different ideas from topics, and you're supposed to learn how to communicate those ideas. It's not like going to church where you just sit and listen to a preacher. All right, so what do you guys make of this? Any final thoughts? Is this, is ignorance really bliss?
Yeah, to the Kari Lake points there that you just raised. Look, it's true. I was indoctrinated in college into math, science, history, etc. Oh, they teach you topics. That's what they do. So why do they object to it? Number one, college-educated people are more likely to vote Democrat. Maybe because they know a couple of things. Sorry, okay? And so they don't want you to get educated because then you might not vote for Republicans. And why do they not want you to learn actual history? Because they wanted you to learn their propaganda version of history, where America's always right about everything and we shouldn't learn from our mistakes. Never fix anything, okay? Make sure we're still in charge. And of course, they don't want you to learn science. Science is dangerous, then you might figure out that COVID is real and the vaccines are real and they work. And you might find out climate change is real and that scientists aren't lying about it. And then maybe we should do something. And that would really upset the oil and gas donors of Republicans.
Yeah, the idea that colleges indoctrinates people, I just think is absolutely ridiculous. If your views change because you went to college, I mean, clearly they weren't that strong to begin with. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think as you learn more, as you educate yourself, of course your views are going to change. That's not a result of indoctrination, it's a result of you getting smarter. Like Cenk is saying, they want you to be dumber so you're easier to manipulate. But this idea that, oh no, you don't go to college, according to Roseanne. Listen to people online. Believe complete conspiracy theories from 4chan. That's where you'll find the real truth about the universe.
Yeah.
It's just so preposterous.
Because 4chan doesn't do indoctrination, college does. Okay, if you believe that, there's not much more we can do to help you. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.